Kingfisher America. Let me tell you, I don't know if there's any teachers in the room or not. I know my wife is an educator as well, and she's here. But man, that first full 5 days of a school week, boy, that's a real slap in the chops. Well, it's like, you're like they send you back on Thursday and Friday. They just let you dip your toe in the water like 2 days, and it's a weekend. And you're like, oh, man, that was awesome. That was great. How was your week? Oh, it was awesome. We only went 2 days. Then they make you go back all 5 days the next week. And then you're like on Friday, you're crawling out the door on your hands and knees, just praying for sweet release. You're like, I am not built for this. You get it. You just see legs back and you're fine. So, yeah. So, man, Friday, and we had to scrimmage on Friday, and so it was like you all day, and you get on a bus, and you drive. It's like, oh, my gosh. I'm not going to make it, but it's all good. So, greetings from that. So if you have your Bible open to Matthew chapter 5, I told you guys we're going to kind of be in the Sermon on the Mount for a couple of weeks, and everybody seems to like a story, so we'll start with a good one. So when my wife and I were first married, so confessions, right? I have a tendency to do that while I'm up here because there's distance between, and I can just kind of get it out, and we'll be fine. So I grew up a huge Sooner fan. Still am. That has not changed. You can boo or hiss, whatever, that's fine. But my wife grew up a big OSU fan, but we met at OSU, which is weird, right? So I'm this huge OU fan that's going to Oklahoma State. That has not changed I'm still an OU fan, but I am an OSU fan too, and I want them to do well and love all that. We were first married. I had season tickets to OU. But then when you graduate from Oklahoma State, they'll give you these these discounted, because they want students to come back to games, so you get these discounted season tickets, right? And so we bought those. And so we lived like young people lived. This is literally what we would do, all right? A lot of times then, OU would have an 11 a.m. kickoff. OSU would have a 6 p.m. kickoff. We lived in Chickasha. I was a youth pastor in Chickasha at the time. So we would get up in the morning. We would go to Norman. We'd go to the OU game, all right? Then we would get in our car. Then we would drive to Stillwater that night, go to the OSU game. We'd probably get a sunburn in the morning. We'd freeze to death at night. Then we would drive all the way back to Chickasha, and I would get up early in the morning and be a youth pastor the next day. All this happening on a Saturday. Well, as you can imagine, there were some late nights driving back from Chickasha to Stillwater, or from Stillwater to Chickasha. So one Saturday night, we're driving home. I mean, it's midnight, it's late, and the game went, it was a later game even than that, and we're driving home. And Ashley has a condition that when she gets in a car that starts to go in motion, immediately loses consciousness. And so it's 25 years of marriage, we haven't solved it yet. We don't know exactly what it is. We've tried tests, can't get it figured out. We just kind of keep it. We have a young child that suffers from a similar condition as well. My youngest daughter, same deal. Get in a car, it starts to roll, just out. So we're driving along, and it's late, and my wife's falling asleep, which is not a big deal. I'm listening to the radio and all the post-game stuff or whatever, and I'm just listening to music. And we go through the toll gate on the turnpike on H.E. Bailey, headed back to Chickasha. And I'm driving along, and it's midnight late. It's like 12:30. It is, and I notice on the horizon, it like glows this bright orange, and then it disappears. And I was like, driving along, I'm like, oh, she didn't see that. And so I was like, that's weird. I'll just keep driving. Not 2 minutes later, boom, the horizon just lights up orange and then goes dark. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, am I awake? Am I awake? And I was like, yeah, I'm totally awake. It happens a third time, then a fourth time. Now I'm like waking Ashley up. I'm like, wake up. We might be being invaded by aliens. I'm not sure, but the horizon keeps blowing up, glowing orange, and then going away. And it's 1 o'clock in the morning or whatever it is. She sees it a couple times. We're like, what in the world? I mean, I lay in bed. We finally get back to Chickasha, and I'm like, what was that? I'm like watching the news. Like, surely they're going to tell us, like, run for the hills or something like that. Was Texas just blown off the map? I don't even know what's happening. The horizon for 15 minutes just glowed orange, and then it would disappear. So we get to church the next morning, and we had a doctor who his daughter was in our youth ministry, and she's still, I mean, it's kind of funny, that group, when I was a young youth pastor, they're all like the same age as me. They're like, I was barely older than they were when I was their youth pastor. He's a doctor, retired now. Dr. Jenkins is his name, and I was like, first name's Randy, and I was like, Randy, I got to talk to you about something. And he was like, what? I was like, this is going to sound crazy. And he goes, what? And he goes, I was driving home last night, and I was on the turnpike. There's nobody on. There's just me on the road. And I'm not kidding you, for 15 minutes, every, 30 seconds, the whole skylight, the whole horizon would just whoosh, this bright orange, and then it would disappear. What is that? Is there something I don't know? I'm weird to even bring it up. I think I'm hallucinating. And he starts dying laughing at me. He goes, I forget you're not from around here. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything, Randy? It's like the sky, and he goes, what is 35 minutes south of here? I was like, Lawton? He's like, Fort Sill, 45th Infantry? And I was like, still don't know what you're talking about, Randy. And he was like, he said our ground, he was in the military. He was a surgeon in the Army for a long time. He goes, those are the muzzle flashes off of our ground artillery that they test at night. They shoot over the landing range crosses H.E. Bailey. That's how bright the light of a muzzle flash of the large artillery that our United States military uses, that at night from 50 miles away, it'll light up the entire horizon to the point that non-knowers think aliens are coming. That's how bright it is. And I mean, for a week, I was enamored with that. I was like, the muzzle flash of those guns is so bright that from 50 miles away, with terrain between me and it, not just flat ground, terrain, elevation change, all that kind of stuff, from 50 miles away, it would light up the entire horizon to the point that you're just like, what is that? To someone who should have figured that out on their own, but doesn't quite have the skill set for that. I was like, what in the world? Incredible, right? To think about that. So the next time you're driving down H.E. Bailey Turnpike, you might not want to do it at 1 o'clock in the morning, but if you are, look to the southwest, you might see a muzzle flash, all right? And just remember this story and you won't have near the confusion, all right? Why do I tell you that goofy story? Because God has called you in Matthew chapter 5 to be a city on a hill. What? A light that cannot be hidden. Last week we talked about when Jesus was like, how do we ask? How do we boldly go before the throne, right? With clean hands and a pure heart, we ascend that hill to God, and this is how we ask, right? And when we ask, we put in this place, and God gives, and we take what he gives, and then we give back to it, right? We talked about this mission trip that we went, these students went on. There is nothing more galvanizing as a believer when we go and do work for the kingdom of God together. We stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder, right? I went to Mexico. I think I've told you the story. I've been to Mexico several years ago on a mission trip, and there is nothing, and we've been Salt Lake City and all these different places, and there's nothing like serving alongside your brothers and sisters in Christ, that which you have done unto the least of these. What? You have done unto me, right? And so when we boldly ask, God, wherever I go, wherever you put me, wherever you see, he who asks, it shall be given. He who seeks, it shall be found. When it knocks, it shall be opened. Jesus said all those types of things. How does that work? How does that fit with what we're going to talk about today? It fits because when we ask that way and we live that way and we operate that way, we are what? We are a city on a hill, a light that cannot be hidden. It is literally an attractive thing. It is something that you see and you go towards it. You see and you are attracted to it. You see and you have questions about it. How does it work that way? How does it operate that way? How do you do the things that you do? Like, how does it work? Because you're just like, I have questions. And that's where we as believers get to have those conversations. Well, here's why. So let's jump into the text. Let's kind of unpack it a little bit. So Jesus comes out of these Beatitudes, and he comes into this place where you are salt and you are light. There's a warning that comes with this. There's a warning about our daily life, our journey with God, every day, and how we maintain our effectiveness, right? Because nobody wants to be ineffective. Nobody wants to go do something that doesn't work over and over and over again, and it just keeps not working. Like, well, I'm just going to do that again, and it just keeps not working. Right? I coach, right? We scrimmage Bigsby. Like when we scrimmage, we're kind of go big or go home at Santa Fe, right? So we go play a half game against Bigsby. If you got to quote my man, Ric Flair, wrestling fans, to be the man, you got to beat the man, right? And so we went. My wife laughed at that one. She's like, "What are you doing?" And so we went and scrimmaged Bigsby, right? I mean, they've won 6 state championships in a row at the highest level of high school football. They are like robots. It's unreal. When you play them, it's like you got them beat. Nope, don't got them beat. I mean, they're always where they're supposed to be. They're disciplined. They work hard. Everything about them is, man, they excel at at the little things. Things that you overlook, they don't overlook. They don't miss it, right? And that's where they get you. They wait and wait and wait and wait and wait, and you will make a mistake, and then they will pounce. And you're like, whoa, didn't even see it coming, right? We have to discipline ourselves. And you look at that, and we as a staff or as a coaching staff look at that. It's like, how do we get to that point, right? How do we get there? You see that, you're attracted by it, you have questions, right? You have to be effective. It's this daily discipline piece, right? And so what Jesus talks about first, before he ever talks about this idea of you being this bright, shining light on a hill, he talks about your saltiness. He talks about your effectiveness. And there were times Friday night that we kind of ran up against the wall a few times. Could not get anything going, right? We had to keep doing that and be frustrated, or look at what we could possibly do different and have more success, and that's what we did, right? So Jesus talks about you are the salt of the earth. So let's jump in verse 13, chapter 5. You are the salt of the earth, but salt that has lost its taste, how shall its saltiness be restored? Can you restore the saltiness of salt? Not really. Once it is gone, there is no getting it back. There is no, well, I'll just resalt this up. You have to add more too, right? Because if it's not used effectively, it loses its ability to be what it needs to be, and you have to add more to it or throw it out, right? And so Jesus is saying here, how shall its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under people's feet. He's talking about how we as believers, we cannot lose our salt, our potency. How do we not lose our potency? It is daily devotion to the Lord. It's spending time with him daily. It is being in conversation with him always. That maintains our saltiness and our effectiveness. The Spirit, if you will, constantly pouring into you, keeping you effective and salty. All right? There's a pastor named Bill Hybels, longtime pastor at Willow Creek Church in Chicago, Illinois, massive church in the suburbs of Chicago. And he wrote this book a long time ago, and it got kind of, and I can't remember the name of the book, the title off the top of my head, but he had this equation in it. And in this equation, he talked about how do we maintain our effectiveness as believers? How do we constantly, what does that look like? And I love this because he was talking about this very passage when he was talking about it. This is in this particular chapter, this is the passage he uses. First of all, he talks about clear communication. Like when we get into conversations, one with God or with each other, are we able to clearly communicate what it is, whatever message we're trying to get across? Can you clearly communicate your love for God and your love for others and what he's doing in your life? right? Can you clearly do that? Right? Do you have your testimony down to 90 seconds to 2 minutes? Can you be able to effectively share your story and how God changed your life in 2 minutes? Right? That's one of the things I've practiced on my whole life, that when I get in a conversation, you may only have 5 minutes max in the conversation. Can you get your testimony out in 2? Clearly and effectively? And then he talks about, so can you clearly communicate it? 2, are you in close proximity to people who need to hear it? Right? So can you clearly communicate your message? 2, do you have people around that you can share your message with? So it's CC plus CP, right? So you have clear communication plus close proximity. Are you around people that need to hear the message? Are you able to be around people that need to know? Are you in a holy huddle? Right? Where everybody's just like you and everybody says and does and acts the exact same way. Nothing wrong with that. But is there times where you're around people that need to hear the message? How are you ever going to get good or ever going to put in a place where you're able to share the message of what God needs to do if you're not around people who need to hear that message? Right? So, if you have a clear communication plus you're in close proximity to people who need to hear the message, what does that equal? Maximum impact. Right? So when we get to that place of being able to clearly communicate our message, because we are salty, because we are daily devoted every day with the Lord, and we're around people who need to hear the message, and we add those 2 things together, we get maximum, people's lives are changed. Whether it's your classroom, whether it's your work, whether it's your sports team, whether it's who you go have coffee with or eat donuts with or hang out with, whatever the case may be, when you are in those environments because you are able to clearly communicate the message, you're around people who need to hear the message, you add those 2 things together, you get maximum impact. Just that simple. And that's what Jesus is saying. When you understand who you are and you walk with me daily and you are not salt to be thrown out, but you are a highly effective machine that knows exactly what to do and when to do it. Because you are what? You are the light of the world, a city on a hill that cannot be hidden. That's who you are. That is who you've been called and named by Jesus. Think about that for a second. Just ponder that thought process for a second. God could use anyone or anything in the course of history to propel the most important message in the known human history. Could use anything or anyone, and he chose you. Think about that for a second. Think about that. You are it. You were chosen. Could have chose anything else. Could have asked, could have been any other plan, could have gone any other way, could have done it however he could have used birds, could have used whatever he wanted to use, but no, he chose you. He made you. He designed you. He put you in a place to be the very thing that he needs for his message to go forward. No more, no less. I don't know about you, but I think that's a big deal. And sometimes we are up for the challenge, sometimes we are not. But if we are constantly seeking the Lord, we will be effective. And so that when our time is called, and our numbers are called, and the moment is right, we step into it. We had an old Sunday school teacher, longtime city commissioner. He was the reason why we attend the Sunday school class that we attend now. His name is Larry McAtee. He went to be with the Lord about a year ago. And he always talked about Hall of Shame moments and Hall of Fame moments. And he was always very transparent. But what I loved about him is that he was a long, 30 years, maybe 20 years plus on the city commission for his ward in Oklahoma City. And Larry never once in all the years of being a city commissioner for Oklahoma City ever once traded his values for anything else. He was openly like, if God does not want us to do this, I do not believe that we should do this. Bathed everything he did in prayer, was openly, but he said, I wasn't perfect. He said, I messed it up a lot of times. whether it was a personal conversation, whether it was something that happened in a city council meeting, or it's something that happened in his home or in his neighborhood or whatever event that he was at. He goes, I wasn't perfect. But I knew that every day I had to get up the next day and I had to take up my cross and follow him. That's all it took. That's what it took. I knew that God would still continue to use me because I kept every day making that choice to chase after him. Because he knew he was a city on a hill. And God had actually given him literally a city and influence. When he passed away, we went to my wife and I went to the funeral, and our Sunday school class all sat together. And to see the people that came that day, believers and non-believers, that came to his funeral because of the impact he had had on their life. And even long after he was gone, the gospel was preached that day, because that was his message. That no matter what, that it be a celebration and that the gospel be preached. Because there's going to be a lot of people that show up that need to hear the truth of who Jesus is, and we are not going to miss the opportunity when they're all under one roof to do so. And that's what we did. Because we are called to be a city on a hill that cannot be hidden. In fact, he goes on, I think they wrote a song about it, that says in verse 15, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light in all the house. It's like, who lights a light and then covers it? Who puts this light out into the world and says, no, I don't want anybody to see it. Light was such a valuable, they didn't have electricity, so light was crucial to do anything. So your light is lit, let it shine. Do not be afraid. You confess me before men, the Bible says, I will confess you before the Father. You have been given a light that is meant to be shown. That for anybody who's driving by or walking by from whatever distance can see it. And they're going to have questions, and they're going to want to know. The question is, are you ready to step into that moment? Are you ready to step in with courage or sometimes fear? I've been in both. I've been as confident as you can imagine to have a conversation. I've been as fearful as you can imagine to have a conversation. But the more I step into those moments, the more I realize, man, he is right here with me. He is right there with me. Right? Though I walk through that valley or that shadow, I have no fear because he is with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Because I need that. I need that discipline. I need that courage. I need that correction. I need all of that. I need all of it. There's not any of it I don't need. I need all of it. But man, when we step into the moments, they can be fearful, but they can also be, there may be fear, but when you are obedient, goodness gracious, the joy that comes from that. The comfort, the excitement, the fulfillment, right? We've all done a good, hard day's work, right? And we accomplish the task. We build a fence, we fix a computer, we write a paper, we do our homework, we do whatever it is. We put the time and effort and work into it. We get it done, we submit it, we turn it in, whatever the case may be. What is there? There's a sense of fulfillment, right? There's that joy of like, I did that. I completed that. You're like, good job. When we step into these moments, whether it be on a mission trip or a conversation with a coworker about the Lord or whatever the case may be, and there might be some trepidation at first, but we get in it. We're in there having the conversation, and maybe it leads to a salvation experience for that person. Maybe it begins this opportunity for them to come. It could be a myriad of things that it could turn into. And you look back and you're like, why was I so afraid? There's this sense of joy that builds up inside. It's like, I was used by God just then to do something. Big or small. Might be huge, might be tiny. All are important. I was just that light that the Bible's talking about. That's pretty cool. And in the same way, verse 16, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. So we're not going to hide it, because when we let it shine, what? The world sees it. And they know what it is because it is alien to everything else. Faith, Paul says, without works, right, is dead. We can do lots of good things. There are people who are lost that will do good things tomorrow. They will be nice to people. They will give money to charities. They will do so. But Jesus said, right, you honor me with your lips, but your heart is far from me, right? There are folks that will say and do the right things tomorrow, but their heart is not captured by God. They do good things because they like to do good things, and it makes them feel good, and there's nothing wrong with that. But Jesus says you are driven by your faith. It is the essence of who we are, that without it, we have our faith, and then we have these things that we do, these things that we step into, these things that God calls us to, because it ultimately does not point back to you. It points to Him and Him alone. I was probably like 18 or 19, I was probably 18 or 19 maybe. I was like a freshman in college. And I was a counselor at a kids camp that our church went to, Camp Leela. It was up by Pawnee, kind of Pawnee, Cushing area where I'm from. And we go to this kids camp, and I go through and it's the first time I'll ever have been like a camp counselor at something. We've just gotten out of school. And I was pretty nervous about that for the most part. I'd never really done anything like that. And they're giving us all this training about the first time, we do like an altar call. We present the gospel, and students have an opportunity to return, and I respond, and I was kind of nervous. And I remember the first or second night we did that, I remember this kid coming right up to me, some kid from some little town that I didn't know him, didn't know his family. We had our students there from our church, but I didn't know this kid. He walks right up to me and wants to talk to me. And I was like, what? Like, okay. So we go off, and it's like 1,000,000 degrees, and we're sitting there talking, and I'm kind of going through the process. He's probably 9 or 10. And we go through, and I was fumbling through it. I was like getting everything out of whack and out of order. I kept circling back. But I just remember we got to that point where he wanted to pray to give his life to the Lord. And we got her through that. And man, he was a pretty emotional kid. Gave me this huge hug. Can't tell you his name. And he walked off, and I got him connected with his group, and he told his children's pastor that he'd given his life to the Lord, and there's this huge celebration. And afterwards, I was pumped. I was like, I just knew that that was the most awesome thing I'd ever done in my whole life. I was so excited. I went to my youth pastor. His name's Todd. And I said, Todd, guess what? He's like, what, man? I was like, what did I say? I said something to the effect of, I helped save someone, I led someone to the Lord, something along those lines. I made it all about me in the moment, right? Like I was the greatest evangelist that had ever lived. I was Billy Graham in that thing like you can't imagine. They probably should make a little instructional video how I did it, even though it was probably the worst one that had ever been done. He looked at me, he started laughing, and he kind of put his arm around me, and he said this, he goes, Mick, I've been a youth pastor for a long time, and I know many others, but he goes, you know how many people I've led to the Lord? And I was like, I'm thinking, he's going to say like 1,000. I got one notch on the belt. He's going to say 1,000. Todd, he goes, not a one. I was like, so I got more than you? I'm like, look at me. I'm accelerated. I'm advanced placement. He's like, Mick, the reason I haven't led anybody to the Lord is because I don't have the power to save. He said, only Jesus does. He said, I'm just stepping into the moment and being used by God. I've never led anybody to the Lord. So Jesus has saved every single one of those people that I've ever come in contact Then I went back and sat in my bunk and thought about what a failure I was for a while. Because I was like, whoa, I talk about a major like, ugh, man, you ruined the moment, Todd, thanks. But I've never forgotten that lesson, because here I stand to you as a 47-year-old. I've never led a person to the Lord. But Jesus has used me hundreds of times to do so. Because he's just looking for a light, a city on a hill that cannot be hidden. So that when we do what we're supposed to do, when we're supposed to do it, what? They will see his works, and they will give glory to the Father who is in heaven. That's what it's all about. We're just to be used. We're just to be okay with being uncomfortable or comfortable or whatever the case may be. You're just supposed to be okay with it. You've ascended the hill, clean hands, pure heart. You've put yourself in a place you've asked. God, use me. Open the door. I'm knocking. I'm standing. I'm here. I'm ready to be used. Okay. You asked for it. So, are you willing to remain salty? Are you willing to dig in with me every day? Are you willing to take up your cross daily, clearly communicate the message, be in close proximity to those who need it, so that we can have maximum impact, so that you can be a city on a hill that will not be hidden. You will not lose saltiness. You will be a flame that moths will come to. Right? That's what we've been called to do. So step into the moments, right? And be excited. You're on the A team. You've been asked to do this. Right? Everybody remembers that game, Heads Up, 7 Up. Remember that game as a kid? I loved that game. We used to play it in class when I was in school. I loved that game. You sit there, head down, thumb up, and your friend is it. Was there not a greater feeling in the world when they came by and they pushed your thumb down? And you're like, yes, I am it. I have been chosen. You've been chosen. The thumb has been pushed down. You are in the game. I never understood. I had a lineman the other night at the scrimmage. I'm going to close with this. And I'm just not wired this way. He took himself out of the game because his shoulder was bothering him a little bit. Just a little bit, not even that bad. He's a big old kid. He's just kind of not feeling it. And he took himself out and put his backup in without telling any of us. So we go break the huddle to break this play, and my man at the left end, he a good kid. He is not exactly a world beater, right? He's young, haven't played a whole lot. We're about to run this play. I'm like, well, this isn't going to work, because my man is about to get run through. And that's exactly what happened. But it happened so fast, we couldn't. Head coach, who also coaches O-line with me as well, turned around thinking that I had done it, was like, did you put him in? And I was like, no. So we go immediately over to that kid, and I was like, what are you doing? He's like, well, my shoulder, I just took myself out. I'm like, first of all, you don't just take yourself out. But I don't understand that. Because when I played, and when I was involved in it, I was like, you had to drag my old dead body off that field before I'd say no. I didn't want to be the one that sat around and watched somebody else do it. I just wasn't wired that way. I can't stand it. I want to be in. I like being in the middle of it. I got knocked to the ground Friday night during the scrimmage. It's on video. It's horrendous. Because I refuse to not be right in the middle of it. Because I'm still wired that way. Henry Blackaby says, go where God is doing something and join it. Right? I'm just wired that way. I don't understand people who want to say, I'll just let somebody else do it. I'll just step back and let somebody else do it. I can't. I'm not like, what? How would you not want to be part of that? God has put your thumb down and said, come on, let's go. He's your first string, man. Your varsity. He wants you in it so that we can win it. Right? Let's pray.